I'm interviewing Jimi Peranteau today. This is Henk with the Skull Sessions. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself, Jimmy, and where you're from?
Originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Was born and raised out there, but currently now I'm living in central Missouri and right by Lake of the Ozarks.
Okay. And what do you do? What's your history?
Well, I'm a truck driver now. I used to be over the road. Now I'm daily home every day. Before that, I did a lot of stuff. I did tattooing, auto mechanic, just basically trying to get any job I could get at the time, trying to find my place in the world. And turns out I don't like having a boss. But
So you were a
now I'm a
tattoo
writer.
artist for a while?
Yeah. I learned from a guy named Mel Campbell. He had a shop, Mel's Magic Tattoos in Southwest Philadelphia.
And what happened there? Like, how long were you an artist?
So I started working with him. I went through my apprenticeship with him, and I was getting ready to do my first major tattoo on my own. I laid the stencil on the guy's arm and let it dry. Went outside to smoke a cigarette, and I got done. I went to go back in, and I'm not kidding. I heard a voice in my head say, "Sit down, smoke another cigarette." So I did. I mean, what are you supposed to do when you hear that? And as soon as I lit that cigarette, 26 gunshots went off inside the shop, and one of them would have hit me right in the middle of the head when I walked over in through the door. And there's a cop out in the corner the whole time, so I knew right there I had to get away from that. So I helped him clean up the shop, and then took my equipment, and then just started doing like house parties, stuff like that. Tried opening up my own shop, my own business for a while. I did that for off and on for a couple of years, but it was awfully difficult in that area, having to deal with other shops and then people coming in trying to get me to tattoo people that I really shouldn't be tattooing. So I decided to give that up, and I went into back into mechanics. But that was a fun situation.
What was the inspiration behind the 26 shots? Like, was it a gang fight? Did somebody rob
Uh,
somebody?
yeah, it turns out that the people we were tattooing were drug dealers from West Philadelphia who were told by the drug dealers in Southwest Philadelphia, hey, don't come back here. And I had already established an understanding with the dealers there. Look, we're a place of business. You can't come into our shop and sell drugs. You want to do that stuff outside the shop, outside the doors, that's on you. You do that. You do you. We're going to do us. And we reached an understanding and agreement and whatnot. And of course, you got to give and take a little bit. So tattoos drastically dropped in order for them to stay out in the price range. But we didn't know that these other people were drug dealers. And when the drug dealers in Southwest Philly saw them, they didn't care about our arrangement anymore. And they just started shooting back and forth at each other. Nobody got shot, thankfully. But like with so many of them going off, you'd think, wow, nobody got shot. Maybe a little time at the range.
So it's 26 shots, but your mentor and nobody in the shop gets shot?
Nobody in the shop got shot. Our the owner, my mentor, he ended up hiding in the bathroom underneath the sink. He, they missed him twice, but I get the number from how many shells I picked up. There was 26 of them. It was really weird too. You walk outside, there's a cop. He's just sitting on the corner in his car, drinking his coffee, flipping the newspaper, and I'm putting my arms up like, "Yo, dude!" And he's like, what am I gonna do?" Keeps reading the newspaper. It's like, wow,
Wow.
really, really crazy.
Very, like he didn't know a shooting just went off.
Oh, he knew. He didn't care. That was the difference. He
Wow.
did not care. Down there, the gangs run the city, and when you're
Right.
in the inner city, they run it. You just nothing you can do. They're overpowered than the cops. It's really weird.
I mean, I kind of understand if it was like a fight between, different drug dealing gangs, but like you were a place of business.
Yep.
They just came in and shot it up, and the cops knew about it and didn't even respond.
Yeah, they sitting on the corner the entire time. It
Wow.
was it was bad. That shop is no longer there either. The owner of the shop ended up getting real heavy into drugs and OD'd while tattooing someone's back. And it turned out to be one of the wives of one of the drug dealers, and he put a line going straight down her back. And he ended up picking up, went into rehab, cleaned himself up real good. He's been sober for, oh, I'd say about 13 years now, and has a different shop in an area called Lansdowne, Pennsylvania. So he was a really good artist too. Really good. His wife, his her well ex-wife now, her name was Kay Hurst. She was featured on the cover of one of them tattoo magazines. Can't remember for the life of me what it is, but he put wings all the way from her shoulder down to her butt cheeks. Beautiful angel wings. She made the cover for that magazine. It was awesome.
You don't remember what magazine was it? Do you? I
No,
read for like four of them or five of them.
yeah, I think it was inked.
Okay.
Might have been inked, but that was maybe 20 years ago
Okay.
now. So quite far time away.
So did that scare you out of working in that shop?
Uh it it opened up a sense of I would say it dried up a little bit behind my ears. If you ever heard the saying you're so wet behind the ears,
Right.
it dried it up a bit. And what was crazy was that day I became a single parent. My my ex at the time, we had a daughter together, and we had separated. She took my daughter to her house, and that day after I cleaned up, I got home, and my daughter was placed in my home with my mother at the time from Child Protective Services. She was removed from her mother, placed with me. So it's I kind of look at it, it was like there was something telling me, hey, I'm not done here, and I need to straighten up. And that turned my life around completely. It's an amazing feeling when you have something like, 26 gunshots going off to go home and realize that now you're responsible for the life of somebody else completely on your own.
Yeah. That's pretty heavy. So what you continued trying to do the tattoo thing for a while after that, and
Yes,
it didn't work out for you?
it, it became too much of a hassle. My dad was a tattoo artist when I was growing up. He had his own business, Bumpers Tattoos in Northeast Philadelphia. So he came over and was teaching me cover ups, how to do cover ups and stuff like that. And I did a lot of my practice work on myself and on friends and my cousin. And I went from there, but it was just when you're doing like house parties and stuff like that, it's really you're really dodging a lot of stuff. Like I had my apprenticeship done, so I could always turn around and say, "Yes, I went through the process." And in Philadelphia at that time, you didn't need to, unless you had a shop, you didn't need to be really inspected by anybody. It was quite dangerous. Now it's inspections. Like out here,
Oh,
I
it's
can,
totally different here. Like
yeah.
I'm in New York, and in New York, we have to get licensed by the health department. If
Hmm.
you actually tattoo out of your house, even if you have a separate room that's all sterile and everything, it's still legal.
Yeah. Yeah. That's, they really didn't crack down on it in Pennsylvania, at least in Philadelphia and like Delaware County, unless you were having like lines of people. And tattoo parties were a thing that they just overlooked. So that's what would end up happening with me. I would do a bunch of tattoo parties and I'd go and I tattoo a bunch of people. And I was always brand new needle every time, brand new tube every time, all kinds of wraps and disinfectants, clean everything. A lot of people got annoyed, but it's like, hey man, I'm not giving you some crap like hepatitis or something like that. And if there was like drugs and stuff, nope, not going. I'll end it right there because single parent, got to deal with it.
Right.
So got to keep myself safe. But it became too much of a problem when I got people showing up and like, hey, no, you're going to tattoo us right now. You're going to do this, and you know, I lived in a bad neighborhood, so it was like, hey, ooh, this is going to be a bit of an issue. So I decided that wasn't for me anymore.
Right. Are you still a single parent?
No, 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 no. Now I am married and I have three stepchildren.
So, what are you doing now? What are you working on now?
So I have my two books that I have published now. They're the Welcome to Satanville series. The first one was Leg of Jane, and the second one was Bloodlines. And now I'm working on a couple projects. I've got book three, which is called Retribution, and that's the ending, the conclusion of the three-part series. I'm also working on a comedy zombie story called 10 Days: The Chronicles of Mike, and basically it's a 10 chapter story. It goes over the final 10 days before zombies completely take over the earth, and it's about one man who all of these people seem to run into, and he's been prepared for the zombie apocalypse, but he's also a bit of a goofball. So he's saving these people in the weirdest ways you can possibly think of. And
Kind of a Shaun of the Dead sort of vibe.
yes, kind of like a Shaun of the Dead, but a guy that just has every steel kahunas, if you say that, if you want to say that. Like in the very first day, each chapter is called a day. So day one, day two. So in day one, he comes running out of nowhere with a sword screaming, "My name is Mike." And he kills the one zombie, lifts up his head, looks at it, and says, "No soup for you," and then drops the head and runs off.
It sounds
Doesn't
kind of
say
like
to his.
Woody Harrelson in Zombieland.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a mix between all that. I wanted to try my hand out in comedy, but still have that horror aspect to it.
Right.
And the guy Mike is actually a friend of mine. Mike, he's a really really big guy, and so it's that character is completely modeled off of him. He's going to be a really big guy doing crazy stuff, and he gave me the idea, and I'm like, you know what? I think I can do this, and he loves it. So every time I write one story to it, I send it to him, and he laughs for about 5-10 minutes, says it's good, and then I move on to the next part. It was originally published on Kindle Vella. I was given that a try, and what that is basically it's where authors can release one episode or one chapter at a time, but you can't you can't advertise it. There's no advertising for it. You really gotta do it all on your social media links
Yeah, I
and
was
hope
gonna
that
say,
people
I
find
guess
you.
you could do it like on your Facebook, and
Hmm.
if you have TikTok, maybe you do little dances, holding up the book or something.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what you have to do. But I I had two episodes out there and a total of three reads. So I sent them a message at Amazon and I said, "Look, I want to take it off of Kindle, publish it as a or Kindle Vella, publish it as a book." And they sent me an email back that said, "Normally we wait 60 days to remove your work from the platform, give everybody a chance to read it, but you've had three views in the last 60 days, so we're just going to remove it immediately for you." So, hey, that kind of killed my ego, but I mean, it is what it is. But so now I'm writing that as a book. I also have another one. It's a possession story. So basically, think like Exorcist or Exorcism of Emily Rose, something like that. And it's going to be a full-fledged novel, and it's going to chronicle a family that moves to Rocky Mount, Virginia in the 1970s, and weird stuff starts to happen. And then they find out there's a history of the land that goes back to the 1800s, and that one is really, really, really hard to write because I want it to be not in your face, constant, like my two books that I have published. I don't want it to be extreme gore. I want it to capture the reader's imagination, bring them in
More
slowly.
like psychological anticipation.
Yes, yes.
I've always had
And
a problem with any sort of like possession, like haunting. They're all religious based because you know I don't believe in a lot of that stuff. So to me, a lot of that stuff doesn't really frighten me because, like, I'm sure if like if you're Catholic or if you're Christian and you watch The Exorcist, you're like, oh my God, this could happen.
yeah,
Meanwhile, I'm watching and I'm going, yeah, it's a girl in makeup. I mean, that's that one happened. So
Yeah,
yeah,
with some
I
pea
have
soup.
trouble making it past that suspension of disbelief.
Yeah, exactly. I have a issue with the religions of the world because they're man-made. No matter what you do, anything like when you pick up your Bible and you look at your Bible, you have to remember it's been translated from another language that was originally translated from another language, which was two different languages that the books were written in. They weren't just written in like Hebrew, they were written in Hebrew and Greek and Roman, and it's, I guess that would be Italian, but it's really mankind taking that and saying, okay, well, let's say this and let's say that. And then you find out that there was originally a ton of books in the Bible that they said, you know what? This doesn't fit. Let's take this out. This doesn't fit. Let's take
Yeah, the
that out.
Apocrypha. Yeah.
Right. And it's like, well, if this is supposed to be inspired by God, who are you to take it out?
Well, and Constantine had the Council of Nicaea, and they voted on it. Yeah, I mean, we
Yeah.
do deep dive into that, but yeah, and a lot of
Yeah.
that's like a very similar to other, myths of the area.
Hmm.
'Cause they're all from the same area, and there
Yeah.
are other religions that have like flood myths or like all
Every.
sorts of myths that come back from the dead, whatever myths. So it's like someone's incorporated like a lot of the names of the chapters of the New Testament
Hmm.
are not actually the names of the people who wrote it, because
Yeah.
they even say that those people were illiterate, so those people definitely did not write it. Whoever wrote it, though, they said, well, what should we name it? Okay, well, this is a famous apostle, we'll name it after this guy.
Yeah. How many
Yeah, I
Israelites
mean,
do you know with
there's
the name
a
Matthew?
whole Dead Sea Scrolls, whatever. You can do a deep dive into this.
Yeah. It's like you think about how many Hebrew people or Israelites do you know with the name Luke or
Right,
Matthew? I mean,
right,
that's very Western names and
right.
whatnot. But not only that, oh, there's going to be this big thing where God gets rid of the evil. Okay, well, if you get rid of evil, then how do you know it's good? They have to complement each other, because if you don't have evil, then you don't have good. If you don't have good, you don't have evil. So it just doesn't make sense. I look at it as, look, this is human nature. It's just who we are. It's I don't necessarily prescribe myself to any form of religion. I think a lot of stuff, if you look at ancient cultures throughout history, you'll find a lot of the same stuff over and over. And it's like, well, something was happening, and me personally, I think they weren't understanding what they were seeing, and just
Oh, well,
described it to
definitely.
the
I
best
mean,
they
there used to
could.
be a water god, a fire god. There
Hmm.
used to be everything that could not be readily explained. There was a god that did it.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm sorry, that's to me that is a lazy, easy way out. But you have to put yourself in their shoes, in their time. They didn't understand this stuff, so that was how they explained it. And as we got more intelligent and started understanding how the world works and how the universe works, they started saying, okay, well, maybe this isn't a god. Maybe this is an earthquake under the water that caused a big tsunami, and it's not Poseidon upset at everybody.
Right.
It works out, but at this it, at the same time, it's how do you work that into what you're writing? That's why I find it really hard to do the possession story. I mean, I grew up in stupidly ridiculous family. Like my everybody on my dad's side of the family, except for me, my one uncle, all Jehovah's Witnesses, and that was
Wow. Yeah.
terrible because I never believed in it. And then
Right.
I'm being forced to go to these, and their religion itself makes you want to stay far away from them. You're telling me that
Right.
your family member doesn't follow the same religion, so you have to either force them to go to this so they convert, or you can't associate with them? No, that's blood. No, that's wrong. But
Is it the Jehovah's Witnesses that believe in the magic underwear?
I don't know. I've never heard of that. But I mean, hey, have you heard about the guy that wore a strainer on his hat, said he believed in the magic spaghetti monster?
Yeah, Pastafarianism. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's like now you're allowed to do that for like. I
yeah,
mean, basically, you can claim any religion you want when you get a photographer ID,
yeah.
because otherwise it's discrimination.
Yeah,
which I
exactly.
actually agree with. I'm like, hey, whatever you want to claim is whatever you want to claim.
Yeah, you do you, I'll do me. Don't force me to do you. That's the way I say it.
Yeah,
It's like I don't care how anybody lives their life. Doesn't bother me as long as, I'm not labeled something because I don't believe in what they believe in.
right.
That's
Well,
coexist
it's the whole
doesn't
thing.
exist.
It's don't push yourself on me. I won't push myself on you. We'll just
Exactly.
live, like peacefully. It's when people say this is my morality and you have to follow this. It's like I don't believe in what you believe in. Yeah,
Yeah,
say you're right.
exactly. But it's with my possession story, it's really, really hard to do that when I don't believe in it because I can't sit there and feel that fear myself. Not only
Right,
that, I mean, I watch extreme horror stuff all the time. And so I'm not really, I don't fear that. I don't feel that fear in it. So I don't have the fear of religion. I don't have the fear of scary stuff. So it's kind of hard to create this. So what I'm what I'm doing for it is this is going to be a family with no religious beliefs at all.
right.
So they're not going to understand. They're going to think, mental issues. They're going to take her to the hospitals and whatnot until finally it's just so much that they can't look to anyone else except for whatever that part gets to. I haven't even gotten there yet. I'm still on the
Well, is
first
it more of like
section.
a specific religion based, or is it more of like a ghost world? Maybe something we don't understand, supernatural.
I'm going to the ancient uh demonology stuff where uh, uh Amostat. I think the name was Amostat. I have it. Oh no, it's actually on my in my files. There is the demon of wrath is the one that I'm basing it off of. So it actually goes all the way back to like Hebrew times. So what the Hebrews believed, they believed there was many different devils. There was a name for every demon and all that, and
Right,
like Samael was the tempter and
right.
whatnot. So that's what I'm doing. I'm going off of that, and then a lot of it is just basically going to be the family's lack of religion is what's going to cause it. And it's going to be ancient ones that, so I may have them go to Catholic priests and they don't know anything because this isn't like anything they've seen before and they'll try their thing, but it won't work. So it's still a lot of planning and processing. I'm still in the first part of the book. It's going to be 3 or 4 parts to it. Um, if you look up a few different exorcism books, what you'll see is there's a lot of like part one, and then there'll be several chapters, and then part two, several chapters. That's kind of like what I'm going to do with that one. I'm not 100% dead set on it, so there's a lot of learning and changing, and that's how it is. Authors, we write 3, 4 drafts before we edit it down and submit it.
Right. Well, my process is like when I rate something and then, I go through it and I try and reread it and edit a number of times. Then I send out and I get like beta readers to like give me
Mm-hmm.
some feedback on it. I've tried reading it out loud. I'm not a real good vocalist, so like, I can't put a lot of emphasis behind words. So that hasn't really worked out well for me. What do you do?
uh, I give it to my wife to read, my dad to read, and my 15-year-old daughter to read because she reads all that real horror stuff. And she watches like the Korean horror shows on the Netflix and whatnot. She's real big into that. And surprisingly, I don't do subtitles. I don't like them. She loves it. But
Well, my girl's creative. She loves all that stuff, or she loves at
okay,
least checking it out. Some of those like they don't have subtitles and they really grab you. Like have you seen Train for Busan?
we just watched that. Me and my 15-year-old, we watched that. What was that? Like 3 weeks ago?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, about a month ago. We watched it about a month ago, and yeah, 2 months? Was it 2 months? Okay, so she's telling me 2 months. So 2 months ago we watched that, and it's something that I have been wanting to watch for at least 2 years, and we finally got around to it, and I didn't even care for subtitles. You could feel. what they
Right.
were feeling, and
Well,
that's what
they
grabs
have an
me.
English version of that. I
Hmm.
don't know if it was like originally in Korean, they dubbed it or whatever.
That's what they
Like,
did.
okay,
But I loved it. But what I do is if my daughter sits there and goes, "Wow, that's cool," right? Then I know, all right, I'm on to something. If she is able to get through it super quick, then I know, okay, this is easy to read because that's what I want. I don't want something that's real hard. I want something everybody can read. Doesn't matter your age, your grade level, whatever. Sit down, you understand the words I'm saying, and you understand the story, you feel for the characters. That's good. And if she starts asking me, did you get something else done on it? Are you done the next chapter? How far are you on it? Then I know it's good. And then I'll sit there and I'll talk to my dad. My dad is a published poet, and he's got a couple pieces of his poetry on audio books and stuff. And he's different kind of genre. He does poetry. I do horror, and but
what does he
if
think if you do horror?
he wants me to write a love story instead, and it's like, oh, I don't know about that, there, buddy.
Maybe a dark love story.
Well, so when you read my first two books, Leg of Jane and Bloodlines, you'll actually see that connection there. So there is that connection between two characters, and you learn kind of early on that they really do like each other. They really do feel for each other and care about each other. But there's no relationship in that first book. It really, you learn they did when they were younger, but now they're just really close friends and they're kind of waiting for their time. But as the story progresses, you really learn how much they care for each other. So the aspect of a love story is there, but I don't do love stories. So, you know,
Well, it's
but
part of human nature. So, like,
yeah,
human love interests are going to be involved in whatever you write, sci-fi, fantasy, horror, whatever.
exactly. It's human nature to want to reach out and make that bond with somebody because we're not really lone creatures. We need companionship. And when you add companionship to something like horror, you're taking it from the just constant gross, especially in my genre. I don't do just regular horror. I do what's called extreme horror. So a lot of gore, in your face
More like
stuff.
a splatterpunk sort of stuff, or
Slightly, it's like my stuff is like the borderline of splatterpunk. I
okay.
joined a Facebook group so I could really learn what splatterpunk was because I wasn't sure if mine was it. And what I'm finding out is splatterpunk is just as gory as you possibly can describe it with no basic storyline, not trying to tell subplot or anything like that. While extreme horror kind of throws in little subplots here and there, it may try to address certain things that are going on in the world. So I'm borderline because, like in my story, I don't know where you are, the towns around you, but every state I've lived in, every state I've traveled to, um, there's always that one town, and that one town always has that one family. And that one family, there's all kinds of talk about them. Oh, they live on their own, they're secluded. They may be rich, they may be satanic, they may be inbreds, but you don't mess with them. You leave them there because they're bad people, they're evil people. And so that's what I touched on. What if that was true? What if those stories were true and there actually was a family like that? And that's what I did for the first book, and it's really touching on that. So I guess you can say there's that little subplot device put into there, and then in the second book it expands and I put the question of, okay, take that family. What if that family spread across the United States, and in every state, in every town that has that one, what if they're all related? What if that's just one family that's spread out through the whole nation?
Oh yeah,
And
that's
they're,
a color twist. Yeah.
yeah, so it's something like that, but it still has those subplots to it. So I guess you would go extreme horror, but some of the stuff in the book, it really is descriptive, and everybody except for two people has gotten to one spot on my book where they have told me I should have had a bucket. I wanted to throw up, and That's huge for me. I had a huge smile. I was like, yes, I did it. I made somebody cringe. And
Well, I like stuff that makes people cringe when it's well done horror. I don't like stuff when it makes people cringe because like kind of like for instance, have you seen the Serbian film?
I have not seen it yet, but I want to.
Don't watch it. Don't watch it.
I hear it's really, really, really bad.
Well, all right. So what happened is a porn star, and then he gets into drugs, and like in the end of it, he ends
Hmm.
up fucking his baby,
Oh,
and then
okay.
kills
Yeah, I
himself.
won't.
It's like,
Mm-mm.
why do I want to see that? It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I cringe, but I cringe because I'm like, dude, that I didn't want to see that.
Yeah, there's the one thing I will never ever describe the death of a child. I will never describe doing something horrible to a child. And a lot of it is because it's almost like an unspoken rule. If you watch a lot of these, even all the way back to days of Vincent Price and all the way up to now, very, very seldomly do you see anything that deals with a child. It's almost an unwritten rule that you don't mess with children; they're untouched. If there's something that's going to happen to a child, the camera pans away. You don't see it. You're left with the feeling of, oh my God, I can't do that, but you don't see it. And in the books, you shouldn't read it. I'll never do that. I lost a child, and that's why I'll never do it. I I couldn't put that in my books because that's just I don't understand how people could do that. Maybe it's because I have lost a child, so I don't ever want to experience that again or have anybody I know or don't know experience that. So
Well,
that's
also, I feel it's like a cheap thrill. It's like when
yeah.
you kill a pet. It's like
Hmm.
you get an emotional reaction, but there wasn't necessarily a good story or anything behind it.
Yeah, no, there wasn't. It's lazy writing because you know it's going to cause that shock. It's the shock and all that people are looking for from their readers when they put something like that in there. And it's disgusting, it's lazy. I don't like it at all, and I think it should never be shown. And that's me. It's lazy. It's really going to a depth of an extreme because you can't think of anything else. There's millions of ways to make your readers go, you know, or make your viewers go, "Ooh, that's ah." I like my readers to physically feel what they're reading. I write in a way that you can almost picture it in your mind. Very descriptive, but they can almost imagine what it's like and feel it.
Do you prefer third person, first person?
See,
What's your process?
I prefer third person personally, but there's times when it calls for something else. Like in Leg of Jane, there's two narrators in Leg of Jane. There is Jane herself who's telling the story, and when it's there in the story, she's narrating it, describing what happened.
Yeah.
And then when she's not describing the story, it's a third person narrator. So it kind of separates it a little bit. But ultimately, I had a really hard time writing the second book because it's first person narrated. It's narrating from the main character. Really difficult for me to do because I don't like writing in first person, especially when the first person is a girl. Because last time I checked, I have a beard, I have to shave it. So I can't think like a girl does. So I really like the third person. So the third book is going to be written in 100% third person. My possession story is third person. 10 Days is third person, and my serial killer novel that I've been writing for a couple years called Mason's Jars. That's 100% third person, and that one is going to be really long, and that's really good. I actually have to come to a point where I stop writing for a little bit because it freaks me out so much. It's difficult to put yourself into the mind of a serial killer and write from their view as because what it is he's retelling the story of his victims. I'll give you a little spoiler on it. He's a serial killer who collects his victims' final breath. He inhales it as they exhale and holds it for a couple of seconds and then exhales it into a mason jar. seals it, and then puts their name on the jar. And that's his trophy. And he's reached the end of his life, and he's wants that one last thrill. So he decides to take the FBI on a nationwide trip, and he's a few steps ahead of them, so he can make them go from one place to the next. And every time he goes to the next place, he sends in a story of the victim from that area that he took. And in order to make sure that they air it and they tell the story, he has a hostage with him. And there's a twist on who the hostage is. So I won't give that away, but it's a really good twist. But every time I write the part where he's retelling what happens, it freaks me out, and I stop writing for a while because it's like, wow, I can't believe I was able to dive that deep into their mind, and so I stopped for a little bit. But I my uncle was killed by a serial killer, a serial killer team, Charles Ng and Leonard Lakes out in California,
Oh
and
wow.
so that got my fascination into serial killers and wanting to understand them and know how they operate and whatnot. So I know a lot about serial killers and whatnot. So I took that fascination for it and decided I was going to write a story about it. And that one I can't wait till it's done. It's just taken forever.
Yeah, I'm surprised you didn't write that in first person, considering you did such a deep dive into their personality. Like
The
most of my stuff,
stories.
I'd say like probably three-quarters of my stuff I do in first person because I like to, I'm a big fan of Lovecraft. And
Hmm.
I'd like to see that stuff like as it's evolving around you.
Hmm.
Um, I realize the appeal of third person because you get like the omniscient narrator that can like tell you everything going on.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's a mixed bag. You lose some stuff, you gain some stuff.
Yeah. So Mason Stars is, I should say, 95% third person. It's when he's telling the story. So every time the story of a victim is told, it's either an FBI agent reading the letter to the other agents, or it's a uh, a writer putting it into the newspaper and posting it. So you get that first person view of it, and it's told. The story itself is told in first person, so it goes from third, and it'll say like Agent Wessling it reads to the reads the letter to his fellow agents or to his team, and then it kicks in as first person for that one section. And that's probably why it freaks me out, because I do dive into that first person for that little section, and then I jump out of it, and it's almost a sigh of relief when I'm done writing that. But it's like, okay, close it up, put it away for a little bit, let me chill out for a moment here. But that one, I cannot wait till it's done. Cannot wait.
I found like my last book I did like pretty much like a half and half mix between third person and first person because there
Hmm.
are multiple characters. So one of the characters, like I would get in his mindset and do everything in first person. I found the third person, like you can kind of manipulate how people see their personality as opposed to letting them pick the personality by like, the train of thoughts and what they tend to focus on.
Yeah. Um. Okay. So I guess for this part, you might want to tell your listeners to plug their ears, because I'm going to give a little secret here about authors. Authors know that readers want to do the work. They just don't know that they want to do the work. So it's best to show a an emotion or show what the weather is like rather than tell. So you can say, "Hey, it's cold, it's raining, it's fall." Or you can explain what that cold breeze feels like on someone's face or going in through their nostrils. And, you can describe its fall by saying something along the lines of, the last stubborn leaves fall to the ground. And that is describing it, allowing the reader to learn by feeling it rather than being told. And readers seem to like that a lot more than being told. And it's easier to do that when you're in third person. At least in my opinion, in my experience, it's easier in third person because then you got to explain I'm sitting here and I'm feeling the wind on my face, or I breathe in, and it doesn't have that same feeling. You're not allowing the reader to feel like they are the character, if that makes sense.
It's interesting. So you think that third person allows them more to involve themselves with the character than first person?
Yeah, yeah, it allows them to feel more like the character, so they can, in my opinion, they can kind of relate to it, so they can put themselves in the book. I notice when I read books every now and then, I have a very imaginative mind. So I tend to almost feel like I'm in that world. Whatever's going on, I feel like I am that character. And when it's third person, I have an easier time understanding and becoming that character while I'm in that book and immersed in that world than I do when it's first person.
Probably because there's also more description of the character as opposed to like just everything seen through their eyes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's I guess that's kind of like why I don't like the first player view on games, like the first player shooter games. I don't like them because I like seeing my character go around, and because I know it's a game, I want to feel like I'm in a game.
Right.
When I watch a movie, I want to feel like I'm in the movie. I mean, I want to feel like I'm watching a movie, not like I'm in the movie.
You don't
But
love those shaky cam
yeah,
movies.
yeah, I'm not one to put on like those VR things and walk around the scary looking room. That's not me. I don't like doing that. It's odd because like I trying to base my next step in life into being an author. I don't read many books, so it's weird. It's like I'm a musician too. I was been playing music since I was in the fourth grade, and I've been in several bands, and I don't like playing other people's music.
Right.
I don't like covers. I like originals. I write my own, and that's because I don't want that influence put in there. So I guess it's the same thing. I don't like reading other people's books because I don't want to feel like I got to compare myself to another author or I accidentally take some of their ideas. If it happens, it's like, hey, it's a coincidence. You know, rather than, ooh, I read that book. I want to, I'm going to do something along that line. So I'm weird like that.
Well, if you don't read a lot of books, what got you into this in the first place?
Uh, it so I watch a lot of movies. I love B-rated horror movies. Like my first horror movie I ever seen was called Motel Hell. I
I
don't know
know
if
Motel Hell. Yeah, actually, that's what I was thinking of when you said B horror movie. Yeah.
yeah, that's my first horror movie. My uncle Bill, he introduced it to me with my cousin Eli and my cousin Brandon. They were like brothers to me. I practically grew up in their house. And he introduced me to that, and my love of B-rated movies just went through the roof immediately from there. I think the very next one I watched was Evil Dead and Evil Dead 2, Army of
The
Darkness.
both are great. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And
I feel
so
like one and two are a little better than Army of Darkness, which went more of the comedy route.
yes, I liked I don't know, maybe it's me, but Evil Dead 1 and Evil Dead 2 are exactly the same movie, just with different actors.
With a higher budget.
Yeah.
I'm a big fan, by the way.
Oh, that is awesome. Awesome.
Yeah, I remember I saw Evil Dead 2 first, and for the longest time, that was my favorite movie. Like I've
Hmm.
seen now it's The Shining, but
Yes.
for a long time it was Evil Dead 2.
Well, so what happened was I was back when I was a single parent, me and my best friend Jay, we were sitting around, we were watching, I can't even remember the name of the movie, but it was a B-rated movie. And I told him, I said, I bet we could write one of these. And he's like, yeah, sure, why not? Screw it. So we sat down and I started scripting it out, trying to write a script for a movie. And I would write a scene and I give it to him. He'd edit it down and he'd put it into like, this is what the area looks like. This is the feelings that the actors need. This is their lines. This is what they're doing. and I got 15 scenes in and got writer's block. And that scene was called Leg of Jane. And it was when you really first met the family. It was a dinner scene, and the scene ended with it was like a giant turkey plate, and they took the lid off of the turkey plate, and there's a human legs on the plate, and above the ankle was the name Jane tattooed. And from then on, I couldn't write a single thing for 9 years. And
Wow.
after 9 years, I found the script. I went over to my buddy's house, and he gave me a bunch of stuff from our old band. It had lyrics, it had flyers, and I was going through it, and I found the script, and I started reading it. And I'm like, man, I gotta finish this. And I sat there, and I'm like, I can't think of nothing. I'm still writer's block. So I decided, well, you know what? I like comic books, and I like graphic novels. So I'm gonna make it a graphic novel. And then I researched it, and the cheapest I could find was $175 per page for one page. And I'm like, wow, each one of my written pages could turn into like 4 pages. So that's going to be really expensive. I said, you know what? Let me write a book. And I sat down and said, all right, what do I do? And I looked at the last scene where I got stuck, and I said, Leg of Jane. That sounds like a really catchy name for a book. But who's Jane? Where'd the leg come from? How to get there? Who are these people? So I turned around and I said, you know what? Jane survived. She cut her own leg off. And then the story just boom, blew up. I wrote it in 3 months, 6 months. It was really quick. And just ideas coming out. And I decided each one of these books, I was going to cut it at 15 chapters. So that way I could pay homage to where it started, and I could always remember where this story came from. And I wrote it out, did nothing with it for 6 years, and I started looking into, how am I going to get this published? Am I going to go through publishing houses and stuff like that? And I started looking and seeing that these authors are extremely restricted on what they can write. If they write something that is extremely descriptive, they're not going to get their book published with that scene in there. So after a while, I started looking into self-publishing, and I'm like, wow, this could really go. I could publish this myself, have complete control over it. I've spent $0 making it, and everything will be 100% profit if I even do make anything. And at first, it was just, I'm going to put it out there. Just want people to read the story, see if they like it. And that's what I did. I edited it down. I published it. I went with Amazon because they're like, oh yeah, you could do Amazon Unlimited. It'll allow people to read your book. You'll get paid per page read. Read the fine print. It's half a cent per page. It is nothing. You got to have thousands and thousands of pages read to make any kind of money off of it. And in order to make it worthwhile, you can't do the 70% royalty. You have to stick with the 35% royalty. So when you sell an ebook, you get 97 cents or 37 cents per book, and you price it at 99 cents. You get 37 cents per book, and that is the only way someone reading your entire book on Kindle Unlimited is going to be worth it. But I stuck with it, and that's how I ended up. I took advantage of the free promotion and stuff, and I got my book into. It was purchased in 9 different countries, and I'm like, wow, okay, I'm gonna get started on book 2. But it all came from B-rated movies, all of it, everything. I got off track there for a moment.
No, that's fine. Like even traditional publishers don't pay much more. It's like they when they put it up on Amazon only gives them a percentage of sales. Like I think it's like 35%, and then they give you 35% of that 35% that Amazon gives them. So
Yep.
at the end of the day, you look at it, you're like, I sold this many copies. Where'd all my money go?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's not necessarily a better
Oh,
video.
exactly. And you know what? Authors that are well known, like say Stephen King or Jeff Lindsay or something like that, they're going to get an advance. Like their publishing company is going to say, random number, here's $50,000, write your book. They ain't got nothing to worry about. That $50,000 is going to take care of them. They can sit and they can write the book, and then they're going to get the rest of their money for the book. And if the book doesn't sell, now they owe the publishing company. So it's like
Yeah,
you
no, that's
really.
I've had problems with advances too. Like they'll
Mhm.
give it an advance, and then they claim your book isn't selling. And then there used to be this thing on Amazon where you could track what was happening with this stuff. It's called Novel Tracker.
Mhm.
And so I go Novel Tracker. I was like, why is it selling way more copies than you're paying me for? They're like, oh, that must be European sales or something. It takes a couple months. And then Amazon deleted Novel Tracker, so they can't even track your books anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't. And now anybody can, like, with my paperback version and hardback versions, anybody, all they have to do is say, "Oh yeah, we're a book company," and they can sell your book, and you're only going to get, I think it's 60%, and they get 40%. But it's like, no, it's 40%. You get 40%, and that's what they make. So they only get X amount from Amazon for selling your book, and then you only get a very small portion from the book that they sold that you wrote, and they went and sold it for you without even telling you. Like I found out there's some company over in England that's selling my book on their Amazon site, and it's like, why is this? So I went into the thing and I realized that I clicked that other people can sell your book, third party basically. Unclick that, and then when you go with Amazon exclusive, you can't get in your ebook version into other platforms. And everybody's going to digital now. So now I'm stuck on Amazon. And finally I said, you know what? I'm going to get off of this Amazon exclusive, and I'm going to go with a company called Draft to Digital. And they're pretty decent. And you publish it with them. And in my opinion, the ebook version looks way better, way better. And they release it to multiple other places. You get an option for it to be put into libraries, brick and mortar stores, and 13 different countries it can go to, and every type of ebook reader you can possibly think of. They
What is
put it
called
in there.
Draft to Digital.
Yes, Draft to Digital. And
And they put it on Amazon, but it's
yeah,
Draft to Digital is a publisher as opposed to
yes,
Amazon being the publisher.
yes,
CreateSpace or whatever they're using now.
yeah. That's exactly what they do. But like, I won't have Draft to Digital put my stuff on Amazon because it's already there. So I don't need to. But Draft to Digital, if you didn't have it, they'll publish it to Apple, they'll publish it to Amazon, they'll publish it to what's it, Kobo? Is that the one that is Walmart?
I
Walmart
know, I
has
know
their own
Kobo
reader.
exists, but I don't
Yeah.
know.
So it'll put it in all of that stuff, even Google Books, Google Play, whatever it is.
Well, I know a lot of my publishers they put something like it's available on Nook, it's available on Kobo, it's available, but I don't know what they are. I just know that there are
Yeah.
avenues where you can buy it.
Yeah. So Draft to Digital does all of that, and it's free to use. So it's like I'm not paying anything to publish it through them. And when it sells on those platforms take their cut of it, and then Draft to Digital gives me the rest. They take nothing. So
They have to take
that's
a
awesome.
small cut or something. I mean, how do they make their money?
Um, through I think part of it also has to do with the paperback, so you can do paperback stuff through them too, and they get a huger cut, a big cut off of that. And they just acquired another platform. They merged with them and whatnot. But there's got to be something. But I know Draft to Digital is by self publishers for self publishers. So using their product is completely free. You don't pay a membership or anything. That's what I should say. You don't pay a membership. So basically, they just distribute it. Those places give you your stuff. I have yet to release it on there because I have to wait till February. So it comes off of Amazon exclusive in February, and it'll be released world wide, what's called wide, um, in February. So I'll get to learn the little ins and outs of it. Any company you deal with, they're always going to tell you, "Oh, hey, yeah, this is great. Come to us because of this." And then when you get to the fine print, basically, it's like, that makes sense. And then you start finding out other things. So I'm still waiting from that. But everything I find on them is wonderful stuff. So that's why I went with them.
Yeah, that sounds great. Like a lot of like the quote more mainstream publishers. I'm talking big like Tor Books or Penguin Books, but like the big indie publishers and stuff. I find they don't do any press for you whatsoever. So you
They
do
don't.
all your own press. I usually do like a little short video for my novels. They don't do that, so you have to find somebody to do that. Everything that needs to be done, you have to do it yourself, but they get a big percentage.
Yeah. And like with Amazon, you can pay for ads, right? I paid for ads and I got, I believe it was 25,000 impressions. And it's like when you're reading that, it's like, oh, cool. I impressed 25,000 people. No, no, no. That just means that their eyes saw it. Doesn't mean they clicked on it or anything. Just means they saw it. And I got zero sales out of it. So I spent $30 for, I think it was 10 days. I ran it for 10 days just to see how it would do. Spent $30, made zero sales, and got a lot of people whose eyes seen the ad and clicked next. So, but again, it also depends on what time you're doing it. I learned after I released my first book in February of 22 that for horror, February is a really bad time to release it. They like it in September and October. So your fourth quarter does the best for horror.
More of the Halloween months.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not everybody can be like me, and Halloween is all year long.
Right.
Oh,
Well,
I,
every day is Halloween. At least that's what ministry says.
yeah, 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 exactly. But it uh it's if you don't use Amazon ads, it bites you. It really does. Like I noticed if you go into Amazon, you go on the search bar and you type in leg of Jane, you've got to go pages and pages and pages in order to find my book. There is exercise books that look like they were made in the 80s that come before mine. You It's like you literally got to type my name into the search bar to get my work. And it's sad. It's like how I literally typed the title of the book and it's telling me exercise stuff. At one point, there's a picture of Chuck Norris up there, and it's like, look, I'm flattered, okay, but I can't break a door by looking at it.
Do you
I'm not
think
Chuck
that's a
Norris.
little bit based off sales? Like maybe the Chuck Norris book sells a little bit better, or do you think some
It,
of that is like you have to buy ads?
it's it's a mix of both because I've noticed when sales start picking up, it's not 6 pages you got to go through; it's four. But and a lot of it is I think it has to do with you're not buying ads, so they're not going to help you out in any way. Like last month, Leg of Jane hit number 57 or 58 on Amazon's best 100 sellers for the horror genre, and still had to go 3 4 pages to find my book. So
Right.
it's like, and I can't figure out for the life of me how to find how to find the different subgenres on there. I'm tech illiterate, so it's like I'm trying to find it through genre and subgenre. I can't figure that out. I'm sure other people can, but I mean, come on, it's number 58 in the genre. No, 57. That's right. I was 57. Stephen King was 58, and it's like, huh, okay. I beat one of his books. He had a couple more up there higher near number one. And another thing too is exposure. So you're fighting with all the other self-published authors, and they have little tricks. Like I thought Stephen King put out a brand new book about 5 months ago, and I clicked on it, and I found out no, it's not Stephen King, it's Stephen R.
Oh,
King.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
And it's like so people are clicking on this, and he's way up there on the sales ranking, and I got $100 that'll, I will pay the person $100 if I'm wrong. Okay. People are clicking on that because they think it's Stephen King. They don't
No,
see that
I'm
R.
sure, yeah.
It's like you can take a word, keep the first and the last letter correct in the word, jumble up the rest of the letters. Your brain reads it as
Right,
the word it's supposed to be. And I think that's what's going on. People are like, oh, Stephen King, I'm going to get that. And here it's not even Stephen King. So I'm
right.
competing with that. And it's like, oh, so yeah. But I mean, it's an amazing ordeal to go through and to experience. It's one of the short of being a parent and a husband. This is one of the best experiences in life because you meet people and when they tell you, "Hey, man, I read your book," really gross, really awesome, kind of makes your heart beat a little bit faster for a moment. Especially when they get to that one scene and they're like, "Oh, dude."
Do you do any of the conventions like Killer Con or like Cares and Scares, anything like that? Monster
Not
Mania?
yet. Not yet. I haven't figured out how to do that and how to go about that. I am debating becoming a member of the Horror Authors Guild or Horror Writers Association.
Right.
I'm debating becoming a member on that. And I'm actually debating trying to do like a book signing during during the tourist season. See, I live in a resort area. If you ever heard of Lake of the Ozarks or the show Ozarks on
Yeah, yeah,
Netflix,
of course.
takes place in my area. It's not filmed in my area, but it takes place in there. So it's a huge tourist area. And so you get only a short amount of time where there's a lot of people. So I was thinking about doing like book signings and whatnot, but
What I found with book signings, if you get like a bunch of people and a couple of them are like fairly decent sized names, at least somebody's a fan of somebody, so everybody checks out your stuff. Like you sell more, people are more receptive because like they're there for something they like, but if you're associated with them, they want to check you out.
yes, there's a an author that I followed him on TikTok and I got to read a couple of his books, but his name is Aaron Bogart, I think is how you
Oh
say it.
yeah, I interviewed him for the podcast.
He is an amazing author.
Yeah,
Amazing
he's a
author.
nice guy too.
Yeah, from what I understand, he's a really nice guy. But I have this idea of three authors doing one book, and it's almost a competition. So it could be either one story told from three points of views, and each one trying to be more gorier than the other. But I want to get everybody involved before I reach out to like I want to know who I want to get involved in it. And then I want to get my work out there a little bit more before I reach out. But I would love to work with that guy. He great author, great author. And I'm trying to find a third one, but I think that would be a really great idea. And everybody I pitched it to is like, "Whoa, that's a really awesome idea." So it's got to find them, but that's an idea I have, and I think that would be great too, because sometimes you gotta know who your company is, who the type of people that write the same as you, and you got to reach out to them. You got to talk to them. It's like in in trucking, you don't just go out on the road and be yourself. You got to talk to the other truckers. You got to communicate with them in order to know the layout of the road, understand how things work, where to go if you're delivering to a place. You got to help everybody out and become friends with them, basically. And that's what I'm trying to do now. I'm going to be reaching out to him because he's a great author. And I really, sometime down the line, maybe a couple years from now, I'd like to do some kind of work with him. That would be awesome. But I'm also a very shy guy. So kind of trying to reach out is like, this is ridiculously difficult for me. I have a face for radio.
Face for radio.
Yep.
when you drive a truck, do you think up ideas like I imagine you're there for hours, so to buy the time.
I work 11 to 14 hours a day, depending on how busy of a day it is. And if you're DOT, plug your ears, sometimes longer. But it's you have a lot of like I used to drive 11 straight hours a day just going cross country. And I've been to every state, every town, every city on the lower 48. And you get a lot of ideas because you're just open road and you're thinking constantly. But now that I'm local, my ideas, no, you cannot climb on me. My being local, my ideas, I gotta kind of get them jotted down as quickly as possible because I only drive 2.5 hours to the area that I work, and then 40-mile radius throughout the day, and then 2.5 back hours back. So at that point, it's like you're talking to texting onto a notepad, or I'm calling my wife and I'm like, hey, jot this down for me. And I'm giving her synopsis basically and very broken up. But in my mind, it makes sense. And she's like, I have no idea what you're telling me to write. I'm like, it makes sense to me. I can understand it. And it goes like that. But driving clears your mind and allows you to think. And I love it. Like I made some of my best decisions in life being behind a wheel, allowing myself to be calm. Because when you're focused on what everybody else around you is doing and you're able to make that your comfort zone, everything just melts away and you're able to just focus. And that helps me out a lot. I can't do things unless I'm multitasking. So like I'm sitting here, you can't see my hands, but I'm constantly moving my hands and like I'm constantly trying to do something. And like I got my dog underneath me and he's whining because
He's
he
trying to
thinks
get up on
leaves
you, and
try
you
to
said
talk to him.
no. He can't get up.
Yup. Hey, he thinks leaves down the street are talking to him. So if you ever get a blackmouth cur, don't live in an apartment. They're noisy. They talk. But I'm always trying to do something because I can't just try to focus on one thing. I have to multitask. It's how my brain works. I don't know. Maybe I got ADD.
I don't know. I find that like I go for like long bike rides, and I find that's where I get my best ideas. When you're just like out on the road doing nothing, your legs are pumping, so you have this endorphins going through your head.
Hmm.
Like whenever I come to like a roadblock in any writing project, whether it's short story, novel, whatever, I'm like, rather than trying to force it, because I know like Stephen King talks about that, like get everything down.
Hmm.
I don't really write like that. Like when I get to a roadblock, I'll just leave it alone. And then when I go for the bike ride, by the end of the bike ride, I always have a great idea.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So chapter one of the third book is already written, and I got the idea working while I was at work, and I sat there and I put my headset on and I hit record and I talked it exactly what I wanted, broke it down and all that. And then on my 30-minute lunch break, I was able to look at it and say, okay, this is what I want it to be. And I pulled up my notepad on my phone, typed it all out. And then I got home and I pulled up my computer and I typed it up. And it's just, it's different from anything else that I've wrote because it's extremely descriptive on how everything is, and you think one thing's going to happen and then it turns into something else, and it's like this idea came while I was driving and it was awesome. The entire first book was written in my truck. I sat in the back of my truck on my bunk, and I had my cigarette at the time, and I had a cup of coffee, and it didn't matter if it was nighttime, daytime, whatever. Sat with my coffee, my cigarette, my computer, and I
Yeah, I was
typed
going
it
to
in the
ask
back
you,
of my
do
truck.
like if you do 11 hours a day, when do you write?
Nighttime and weekends. So I'm off on Saturdays and Sundays,
Mm-hmm.
and so I take my ideas throughout the week. I'll jot them down as I go throughout the week, and then on Saturdays and Sundays, I'll devote my time to writing, and I'll jot it all down, and it works best for me that way. And days that I have off, like oh my God, I have been off since I had off on Friday, so Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Today's my fourth day off. I am ready to go back to work. But like, so days like that, when I have those big scheduled days off, I'm able to do a lot of my focus on my writing and stuff like that, and music stuff like that.
Okay, awesome. So, what you still do music?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay. I play trumpet, tenor sax, a little bit of keyboards, drums, bass, and when I say a little bit of keyboard, I mean I can play Mary Had a Little Lamb.
Yeah.
That's it. A thing called a didgeridoo, congos, bongos. Uh, Believe it or not, they actually have spoons as an instrument. It's a single piece that has two spoons that come out. We have used them in my songs. Guitar, and I'm debating on what my next instrument is. I'm going to teach myself, but I play several different instruments. Almost all of them are self taught and whatnot. And oh, vocals. I I can't sing, but I can growl and I can scream. So, which is very hard to do. Hurts the
So,
throat.
what kind of music would it be? I mean, if you say growl scream, I'm thinking more like death metal, grindcore sort of stuff.
Yep, yep. It's a mix between like we have influences from everything from Creedence Clearwater to Cannibal Corpse,
Right.
and we try to do all that together. I'm a huge Double Driver fan and a huge Mudvayne fan and a huge Pantera, Metallica fan, Slayer, stuff like that. So we take influences from all of that, but we can do stuff that's clean and not distorted, clean guitars. And if I hear something that I can growl over top of, it does not matter if that's clean or distorted. I'm going to growl over it. And there are times where I'll try to put soft vocals over top of it. And like I said, I can't sing, but I can growl and I can scream. So that's a lot of what we do. We even mix a little bit of new metal in there, anything we can, but it's all metal. Metal. We call ourselves experimental metal. So that's pretty cool.
My friend Justin Brandon, who does he used to be in the band Indecision. It's now Most First Blood, but they did
Okay.
like a side project where it's like their Pitbull sings, like it's a grindcore band and the Pitbull sings.
That is awesome. I We did this one song. Um I don't want to curse, so I'll give you the working title
You
of
can
it.
curse, I don't care.
Okay. The song was called Fucker. Okay.
Right.
And the main chorus lyrics were bow you fucker, this is the end of all suffering, stuff like that. And in there I had this one section that went clean. If you're familiar with the first Mudvayne album, LD50, there's some parts in there where it's a lot of like almost has like a funk background feel to the guitars and the bass. It was a section like that, lasted a couple of seconds, and I had my 15-year-old daughter and my 17-year-old son at the time. They were 3 and I think 6 or 5. Okay. And I had them stand in front of the microphone and just yell anything. And my daughter yelled something. I couldn't even make it out, but my son turns around, gets in front of the microphone, grabs it, and goes, I'm going to kick you in the face. And that went into the song. It was awesome. And then it goes straight from, heavy stuff. And then all of a sudden you get this like 5-second funk beat. And my son going, I'm going to kick you in the face. And then just bam, heavy everything right there. And the chorus starts. And it's like, that was awesome. It's amazing the stuff you can put into there. Really is.
So is that like you release your music? Is that something that's now available for people to purchase?
I'm going to show my age here.
Uh,
Uh, we were on MySpace.
okay.
So there's
I had a
old.
MySpace, yeah.
MySpace is the reason I'm married. Believe it or not. I met my wife when I was 17 in a place called Job Corps the first time I went. And we hit it off great. We were together for a while and then we separated. Wet behind the ears, nervous, went our separate ways. And 7 years later, I got a MySpace account because my band said, we just entered this Battle of the Bands contest and you have to have your own MySpace page because you're the front man. Fine. So I made a MySpace page, and not 2 days later, my ex emails me on MySpace. Hey, is this Jim from Job Corps? And I'm looking, I'm like, I know that girl. I clicked on it. I was like, oh shit, it's my ex. So I said, yeah, it is. And now today I'm married. Yeah. But we did a battle of the bands on MySpace. And out of like 1,700 and some odd bands, we placed fifth. So we just missed the grand prize thing. Um, if you're able to still get on the MySpace, I don't know yet. But
I think it's still around. Yeah. Like my
I'm
old
not
account
sure.
hasn't been deleted. I just never use it.
Yeah, neither do I. I got married and I said, maybe that's not a good idea. Went to Facebook. But then there's one song on YouTube. It's called I'm Not Insane. And then in parentheses, Blood Follows Blood. It's actually a song about domestic violence and what it does to a person's brain. That's on YouTube. Um,
What
and
what's the band it's under?
Lycan,
Okay.
Lycan. Um, you can type in Lycan and then I'm Not Insane, Blood Follows Blood, and it'll pull it right up. It's got a whole whopping 101 views. So, and it's been up there for 8 years. But we would do stuff like that, and then I've that's pretty much about it. We did a couple of Battle of the Band shows, but it's never really took off from there. It was something to just have fun with. Um, I it's something to really clear my head, and it's like therapy for me. I use music as a stress relief type thing, and I constantly hear music in my head. So you know how some people have like that dialect. They hear themselves talking for their thoughts. That's me. I have that constantly, but behind that is a musical beat constantly. And so a lot of my songs, when I pick up a guitar, I write, it's what I'm hearing. And then I get that out, and then the song changes. And sometimes it's stuff I know, sometimes it's stuff I don't know, and whatnot. But I'll record it and then just keep it in my personal files and whatnot. But we haven't like tried to go big or anything like that. So, but my old band, we out of Philadelphia, there was a radio station called 94.1 WYSP. They had a segment on I think it was Friday nights, 10 p.m. called Loud and Local. We had one song on there, and that was cool. I think it was played once, so huge success. But a lot of bands on that Loud and Local only got one time that was put on there, and it was just so the public can hear them and whatnot. So, but it's just mainly for our own personal stuff.
Okay. But all of your books, all of your written stuff is available.
Yes. Welcome to Satanville, books 1 and 2, Leg of Jane and Bloodlines. They are available on Amazon right now. There is Leg of Jane paperback is available on BarnesandNoble.com, but not the ebook. But paperback, ebook on Amazon, and starting on in February, you'll be able to find it on Apple Books, Google Books, Kobo, Nook, everything you can think of, it'll be there. And I'm aiming for the third book to be released no later than the end of March.
All right, man.
But it's been
Well,
a blast.
yeah, thank you very much.